Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ted.
Thank you. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. It's gonna take me a second here.
1, 2, 3, 4. No, I'm just kidding.
A 15-second break, yeah.
Okay.
I think I unmuted.
It needs to be connected.
Is it on yet? Is it going through?
Go testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Well,
Got it.
some of you may remember a story I'm about to share. It happened some time ago, and I like to share it for the kids at church. And maybe it when it fell out, it okay. And it happened about 10 years or so. Invited to go on a bike ride, a mountain bike ride. I had a mountain bike, and my friend who was really into mountain biking too said, "Hey, there's a good place. Let's go Saturday afternoon, and let's go up to Silver Falls." And there's a ridge trail or something. I wonder Brian was to tell me what that is, because there's a common trail up there. So we headed out. But it was getting later and later by the time we headed out, and it was around this time of year as the sun was starting to set earlier and earlier. And of course my friend was very skilled and very fit, and the first half of this ride was all uphill, and the second half was all downhill, right? So I wasn't so prepared for the uphill. Let's just say my skills were probably more geared towards the downhill. Because I had gravity on my side. And because I was, anyway. So we started, and embarrassingly, I had to stop, take breaks. I was huffing and puffing. Well, because I've been there with you too.
Yeah, it's Catamount. It's 4 miles up.
Okay, 4 miles. So to me, that's tough. But anyway.
Straight up.
Yeah, this guy, it wasn't with Brian this time, but I went with Brian. I think we had a better plan. I think we planned the whole day with Brian and several of us went. Anyway, so my friend and I went. This was Saturday afternoon, late today. Anyway, we get up to the top right about the time the sun is going down. I didn't have any lights on my bike at all. And my friend actually had a little red light about this size on the back of his bike, but nothing on the front of his bike. So he, of course, knew this route. I said, "I'm following you." I said, I'll watch your little red light. I said, "Don't get too far ahead of me." And so we started, and his red light would disappear. Because this is not a straight path by any means. And so his red light would disappear, and then it would show up again. Then it would disappear again, and it would show up again. And so I just did my best to try and track where I last saw that red, and then use my imagination a little bit there as I was working down the hill. Well, we made it to the bottom, and there was even this, what do you call it, where the fire road and the gate was closed and everything. Of course, they don't paint those and put reflectors on them very easily. And he tried yelling, shouting out, because he was able to avoid it. And I think I avoided it just in time. Well, usually this isn't a problem, but I think if it's okay with you guys, I'm just going to switch. Otherwise, I'm probably going to distract everybody with my fiddling with my headset. So.
You guys play with it, do you?
Okay, so anyhow, I actually got scraped up pretty good sliding underneath that railing, but it was an opportunity and experience for me to really see what it was like to put my trust in somebody else completely. That he knew the path, he knew what he was doing, and he wasn't just going to take off and leave me hanging on that path. And so I want to talk to you today about trust. As young as a little baby, you see babies getting thrown up in the air and being caught again, and they just think it's wonderful, right? They just squeal and it's exciting. You start getting a little bit older, it still gets as exciting, but there's a certain age in which it's not exciting anymore. And then there's a point that I think about, in my experience, I was a teacher for 14 years, and I also coached gymnastics. When I was a kid growing up, I was really involved with gymnastics. And not your Olympic type stuff, but mostly like stunts, type stuff, pyramid building, things like that. And so I was, because of my size, I immediately turned into the person that was like holding everybody else up, and or catching people that were falling. And even to this day, if you're doing something, chances are, if you're getting up on a ladder, I'll spot you. And I may even say, I'm spotting you. Because that's kind of my natural thing, someone's climbing on something, a kid or a friend or something. I spot you.
You got all of our six, don't you? Yeah.
So, yeah, that's right. So, when I was coaching, I started to realize the challenge and the trick wasn't getting somebody willing and able to go up to the top of something. It was actually getting them down. Because it was hard. Both were not easy. But once you get them up there, then you have a little bit more of a problem because everyone's getting tired the longer they stand there. And what are we going to do now? I'm not getting down. They're shaking and everything. So we decided that we were going to teach this all back, reverse it, right? Let's teach them the getting down part first. And then we'll teach the getting up there, because that way they know how to have that bail if something's not working right. How am I getting out of this? So we would have like a platform or something that they would stand on, and we call this the trust ball. Okay, this is an exercise people often do just to develop trust. So we would have them stand up, and we would have them cross their shoulders and then fall back, and then. Start out by having like the coaches catch, and then do that a few times, and then actually have their peers get involved in catching, because that's who really would be the ones needing to catch in these certain situations. So we did that for a while, and that actually started to work pretty good. It was not easy. In fact, some people really resisted doing that. And we'd go a little bit higher, we would have somebody kneeling, and then we'd have them stand, so it'd be more likely what they would be doing in the stunt. And then they would fall down from a little bit higher and get caught. And sometimes it didn't go so well. No one got real hurt, but some people got a couple times said, ooh, this isn't going to work for me, I'm not going to trust these people.
Right.
And I remember in college when I was on a team, we did this stunt called the helicopter. And you have 6 people tossing one person, and they're laying on their stomach. And the idea is they go 360 like a helicopter plane, and then you catch them again, right? Well, the toss went good, the throw, the rotation went good, but the people were too busy watching the spinning and not getting ready for the catching. And so the person bounced on the ground. Fortunately, they had, there's padding. It wasn't, they were fine, they got up, but that kind of breaks trust, right? I don't want to do that again. But you know what they say, back from the top, let's do it again. And you do it again, and you do it again until you get it right.
You get up and do it again.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is we all have different experiences in our lives that affect our trust, our ability to trust, our willingness to trust. The work I do now, I they call a trust department as a trust officer. And people will come to me and they go, "Can I trust you? Or are you trustworthy?" I say, "Somebody thinks I am." I don't know how else to answer that. It becomes very apparent when I sit down with people the importance and the meaning of what that is. Because when I sit down with people, there's a lot of trust involved. They trust me with information. And I learn about their level of trust for each other, because often I'm helping them decide, who are you going to lean on if you can't make decisions by yourself? And then they'll say, "Oh, okay, I'm going to put this person down." Well, you can decide whether you want that to be effective immediately, or you can decide whether you want that to happen.
We go to strangers.
A doctor, all these hoops to jump through.
Strangers that we don't even know.
So-
we trust them with
Yeah.
every word that we say.
So I've discovered that some people are comfortable with picking somebody, but they're like, "Well, I still want a doctor to make that decision. I'm not going to let." Some people are like, "Oh yeah, whatever, you'll make it happen today. We're fine with that." And then sometimes people will put a name down, and when it comes down to signing or marking what they want help with, they'll change some of the things. "Well, I don't want them to make decisions for me regarding life support," even though that's kind of what the whole framework of doing. And it's okay. It's what everyone chooses and wants to do, but we're all different in what we feel and how our levels of trust with people. And some of it's based on the experience with them, and sometimes it's just plain on experience, period. It may have nothing to do with the other person. We're called to trust, right? In fact, the Bible says, just interesting how at the core of what Jesus says is that we are supposed to trust. Trust is at the root of our salvation, our belief, our choosing Him. And that seems that I think we take that often way too, like when we're standing up here and we're talking about it. Well, that's just easy to do. No, it's not. My dad passed away, what did I figure out? 25 years ago. I was about 18 years old. And I wouldn't say I have a whole lot of experiences in my life where that would lend to trust issues. But when I think about that one, it wouldn't be very hard for me to go, "Okay, God, I don't know if I trust you." And I don't know why, but I haven't blamed God for any of that sort of thing. I don't believe that's of God. I don't believe God wanted that to happen. It happened because of the sin in this world, right? And I think one of the things, I read some different interesting quotes kind of about faith and trust and things like that. There are only two ways to live. One is as though nothing is a miracle. And the other way is as if everything is a miracle. Albert Einstein said that. And faith is believing that the outcome will be what it should be, no matter what it is. Right? And that's kind of what I came to grips with my dad, is It's what it was supposed to be, regardless if I like it or not. And I still believe that God has my best interest at heart, just like He has your best interest at heart. Just because I want something and I don't get it, doesn't mean He doesn't love me. Doesn't mean He doesn't love you.
He just knows that it's not best for you.
Exactly. His ways are greater than my ways. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. And if I try to reason with Him with my reasoning skills, it's apples and oranges. It's not even close, right?
Amen. Amen.
So, the previous quote I said about either everything is a miracle or nothing is. I started journaling. I've probably shared this before, and I know this doesn't work for everybody, but it wasn't anything I tried until like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Not like just journaling stuff that's happening in my life, but anytime I sense something that God has done, where I know that God's hand was in something, I write it down. The month and the year. If on a day I don't have anything new to write, I look back at old stuff. Okay? I review stuff. It reminds me. I do that before I pray. Because it strengthens my trust and my faith in God's sake. And it's not just about me. It's about everybody else. It's about church. It's about the people I work with. It's everything. You guys, you think about children, your children. You think about, you pray for your children. You pray for God to lead your children, take care of your children. And I don't relate that to that in the same way, but I have some elderly children, should I say? Not children, but
Oh, yeah.
and I have a few people that I pray about because and I see God's hand, and it's very humbling, and I'm sure you see this in whoever you're responsible for, where you go, well, God, you just did something there that shows me that you care for that person way more than even I do. Because even though it involved me and the timing and everything, I know that it couldn't have happened if God hadn't intervened or made something happen. So, anyway, Nicole, did you want to share something? Oh, amen. Yes. Amen. So, I wanted to share a couple of verses. Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding.
Amen.
Seek His will in all you do, and He will direct your paths. Matthew 22, verse 37. You go there with me. Jesus replied, we'll all back up here to verse 34, Matthew 22, verse 34. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees with his reply, they thought up a fresh question of their own to ask him. One of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap him with this question. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses? And Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind.
This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. And all the other commandments and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two. Love. Can you have... Well, let me go to another quote. Mother Teresa said, "I know God will not give me anything I can't handle. I just wish that He didn't trust me so much." Do you feel that ever? He has more of a trust in us than we have in ourselves, right? He knows what we're capable, we don't.
He trusts us to trust
Well,
him.
You almost made it.
Amen. Amen.
Hebrews 4:1-3. God's promise of entering His place of rest still stands, so we ought to tremble with fear that some of you might fail to get there. For this good news that God has prepared a place of rest has been announced to us just as it was to them. But it did them no good because they didn't believe what God told them. For only we who believe can enter His place of rest. And for those who didn't believe, God said, "In my anger I made a vow. They will never enter my place of rest, even though His place of rest has been ready since He made the world." Belief in Him, is that significant? It's so significant that it's everything. Trusting, believing, it's everything, right?
No salvation without.
And I have to say, I think that's probably one of the toughest things.
Yeah.
You know, I think about Tom getting up here and sharing, and the amount of faith and belief he has in what God's given him to share, I think is just amazing. I don't know about you, but it blesses me.
Amen.
A lot when I hear, because God is using him, and God's using each one of you too. God calls us all to be used, and what Tom does when he comes up here is saying, "Okay, God, what do you have to say today?" It's not, "What do I have to say?" And I pray that for right now, at least, that it's not what I have to say that they're it's all about God and God putting the message on your heart. And it's a real trip, too. When you put that faith and trust and go, "Okay, God, it's you. Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be you." It's huge. So I'm going to just wrap it up right there. Is trust. And trust each other. Let me encourage you to do that, to reach out to each other, to trust. One thing I heard a while back that really sank in, I never forgot about it, was mostly related into, it would definitely apply in this situation, but to spouses, is always assume the best intentions of the other person. No matter what is said, assume the best intentions. And that's not easy to do, is it? But with God's help, we can, right?
God wants me to.
Let's go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for who you are. We thank you for your word and your guidance today. And I just pray that as we go about our lives, that we'll think about our trust in you, Lord. We'll think about our trust in other people. May we grow in our trust in ourselves and our trust for others and our trust in you, Lord, too, as we realize how important it is that to believe and to trust. And so if you're that light going down that hill in the dark, may we keep our focus on you, and may we follow, and may we not veer away, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
And Second Chronicles 16:9 says, "The eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully